These days, Binge's mood was especially bad. Shang Jinhua could understand. As the stallion protagonist who, in the original work, could fuck his way across the continent solo, he had now captured and imprisoned Shen Qingqiu and... Yep, just imprisoned him and nothing else. Could you believe it? He was the original author, and even he didn't dare believe it. If he could still control the current Binge with his pen, guided by the principle of, quote, satisfying the protagonist is satisfying the readers, he would absolutely have let Luo Binghe defile Shen Qingqiu hundreds of times, hundreds of times, over and over, like skewering a kebab. This definitely had nothing to do with his personal grievances against Peerless Cucumber, definitely not. No props, position, or location would ever be repeated. Things would get easier once it was skewered, mind you, and of course feelings would develop during the skewering. In comparison, the current Binge's life was the dull and arduous sort, in which he might go 3 years without knowing the taste of meat. Shang Jinhua couldn't help but feel sorry for his dear son. So, no brainless idiot would dare go up to Luo Binghe and be a nuisance at this kind of time. In the assembly hall of the underground palace, everyone hurried about on their own business. Sha Hualing was sewing together that giant net of immortal binding cables that Shen Qingqiu had torn apart as she stole looks at Luo Binghe, sometimes biting her lip in dissatisfaction. Mo Beijun was taking a nap at the west end of the hall, eyes closed. Shang Jinhua bounced his leg, idle to the point of agitation. He really didn't have anything to do, and he hadn't wanted to come to the assembly hall either. But this was demon territory. If he didn't stay within arm's reach of Mo Beijun, who could say he wouldn't be swallowed whole by some manner of bizarre creature? Just when he was about to crawl over to Mo Beijun and risk a beating to request that his king find somewhere with a less tense atmosphere to nap, Luo Binghe suddenly said one word. If. Every demon in the hall perked up their ears. If you hold unique feelings for a certain person, how can you make them understand your intentions? Luo Binghe asked. Poor Ice Brother. He was totally like a terminal patient, desperately turning to any doctor he could find. Even though his question was veiled, how couldn't they all tell he was looking for romantic advice? Moreover, he was actually trying to have a serious discussion about this sort of thing in front of his subordinates. Sure enough, demons, just shouldn't fall in love, thought Shang Jinhua, because as soon as they do, their IQ drops like a stone. Well, obviously no one dared to tear down Luo Binghe's facade and expose him directly, but this question was really very unsuited to the demonic approach. After a long moment, not a single person had answered. In fact, the answer was so simple that any normal human could have given it to you. If you liked someone, you should just tell them. Unfortunately, there was not a single, quote, normal person on the scene, and aside from Shang Jinhua, there also were no, quote, humans either. Mo Beijun thought about it. With the paths his mind was given to take, there was no telling how he had interpreted, quote, unique feelings. Beat them up 3 times a day. Luo Binghe made a stop gesture with one hand and said wisely, You don't need to answer. Of everyone present, the only one who had a natural advantage due to their gender and who therefore might be able to field this sort of question was Sha Hualing. So the others all swept their gazes toward her. With, What the fuck? Why should I provide this sort of advice to the man I want to take for myself? written all over her face. The finely shaped lips and brows of Shah's sister, who had been extremely popular in the original work, twitched several times. Finally, still spasming, she let out a dry, "Why doesn't my lord ask Senior Dream Demon Memo?" "I already asked," said Luo Binghe. No one knew better what sort of shit answer Memo had given than Shang Qinghua. That guy was the same as Shang Qinghua. He was clearly of the, quote, "just do them first" persuasion. Shang Qinghua broke and let out a chuckle. Sha Hualing had been brooding, her chest full of repressed emotions with nowhere to vent them. Latching onto his brake, she erupted, "You dare? Who are you to sneak into the assembly hall and make a disturbance while my lord is discussing important matters?" That kind of question couldn't be called important matters, could it? And he had only let out one sound. How could they count that as, quote, disturbance? As this wasn't the first time Sha Hualing had picked on him, Shang Qinghua was adept at meeting her with indifference. He kept himself planted in a seat, pretending he was nothing more than empty air. As expected, Mo Beijing was unconcerned. Sha Hualing saw that no one was paying attention to her and indignantly wrung her long fingernails. "My lord, Mo Beijing brings him everywhere every day without the least bit of discretion, and even brings him to the assembly hall. What is the meaning of this?" Luo Binghe was also unconcerned. "You see him every day. Are you not used to him yet?" Sha Hualing was going to faint, but this was the first time in months that Binghe had expressed an opinion on Shang Qinghua's existence. Immediately, Shang Qinghua started up an ecstatic internal chant of, "My son noticed me! He noticed me! Ha ha ha!" What he didn't expect was Luo Binghe taking a look at him and saying, "Since you laughed, doesn't that mean you have something to say?" Shang Qinghua was at a loss for words. Sha Hualing let out a "ha," followed by, "Well asked, my lord. Since he is so familiar with Shen, with humans, he must have some remarkable and clever insight. All of us would do well to listen with respectful attention." Shang Qinghua turned back to look at Mo Beijing, who was sitting behind him. Surprise, surprise, he had no intention of helping him out of the situation. So Shang Qinghua braced himself and said decisively, "Well, of course I have something to say. The secret lies in 2 words. Be clingy. As they say, a fierce woman fears a clingy man. A brave hero fears a pampered lady. As long as your skills are up to par, you can grind an iron bar into a needle. Even if he's as straight as an embroidery needle, you can still bend him into a paper clip." "What's with this straight and bent?" Sha Hualing asked. "Don't speak the human realm's dialect. My lord, I think he's simply acting enigmatic on purpose." But Luo Binghe was unreservedly immersed in Shang Qinghua's account. "I'm still not clingy enough," he muttered. "Still?" Shang Qinghua babbled non-stop. "Well, clinginess is a main tactic, but aside from this absolute truth, there's another terribly important angle you must consider. Gentlemen must understand that women's love comes from admiration, and men's from a desire to protect. The matter of women we will not discuss for now. I am convinced no woman could resist being subdued by my lord's peerless and godly strength, his elegant manner that defies the heavens, and his sincere affection, so we will reserve ourselves to the other case. If you, my lord, If my lord wants a man to understand his true intentions and furthermore to respond in kind, then what ought my lord to do? It's quite simple. No man doesn't wish for a weak, lovable, and docile partner. What do I mean by lovable? Lovable means some person or thing that can invoke a heart's tenderest affections, so a partner must unquestionably be most obedient. Most. Bullshit and flattery flowed forth in equal measure, and the crowd in the hall peered at Luo Binghe, seated high above them. His face was gloomy, his pupils glowing red, and a murderous aura surged beneath the surface, painting a most vivid picture of untouchability, aka discontent. The distance between him and the words, quote, weak, cute, docile, and obedient was practically a bottomless chasm. Sha Hualing couldn't resist letting out a scoff. Shan Qinghua hurriedly shut his mouth. Luo Binghe rubbed his temple. Continue. Having been given official approval, Shan Qinghua continued to explain. I'll take Shen Qingqiu as an example, he said, brimming with ill intent. This guy, you know, he's a straight man. Oh, what does, quote, straight man mean? Well, a straight man is a normal man. Obviously, I'm not saying you aren't normal, my lord. Rather, he very much values his dignity as a master and teachers, they all like students who do as they're told. So if you want him to like you, the first step would be to listen to him and be good. The hall full of demons and beasts were practically scared stiff by his brazenness. Impudence! Sha Hualing snapped. You mean to have my lord pretend to be piteous and obediently listen to him? My lord is the grand ruler of the demon realm. How could he do such a shameless thing? That's right. That's precisely what I mean, Sha. Turn around and take a look at the thoughtful expression on your lord's face. Does he look like he thinks this sort of thing is shameless? Impassioned and vehement, his mouth running like a torrent from the heavens down to earth, Shan Qinghua concluded his 20-minute-long romantic consultation. Sha Hualing had already throttled him to death with her eyes 10 million times, and as soon as Luo Binghe left, Shan Qinghua hurriedly moved over to Mo Beijing's side, pressing close to seek protection. Mo Beijing looked askance at him. If you want to be liked by a man, the best method is to act pathetic. Shan Qinghua thought about it. In theory, that would be correct. Mo Beijing reached out his hand. Thinking he was about to be beaten up again, Shan Qinghua hurriedly put his hand over his head. But the pain he expected never arrived. Mo Beijing only lightly tapped him on the top of his head. Afterward, seemingly in a bit of good mood, he got up and started walking out of the assembly hall. Though Shan Qinghua was confused, he couldn't handle Sha Hualing staring at him from the side, her fiery gaze like that of a tiger eyeing its prey. So he hurried to catch up, taking 3 steps for every 2.